I've always been the family disappointment. At least that's what my sister Madison made sure everyone believed. Sarah dropped out of college again, she'd announce at family gatherings, her voice dripping with that special blend of pity and disgust she'd perfected over the years. I can still picture her sitting there in her designer clothes, engagement ring catching the light as she gestures dramatically. She's throwing her life away to play on computers all day. My parents would exchange those looks, you know, the ones where concern meets resignation. Dad would clear his throat uncomfortably while Mom would quickly change the subject to Madison's latest promotion at her prestigious Manhattan law firm. What none of them knew was that my playing on computers had turned into a thriving business. I'd developed a security algorithm that major tech companies were fighting to license. My freelance work had evolved into a startup that was quietly revolutionizing app development. But I never corrected them. Never showed the bank statements or the contracts. Why? I'm still asking myself that question. Maybe it was because I'd spent so many years being Serafina Blackwood, the family failure, that I wasn't ready to shed that identity. Or maybe, and this is harder to admit, a part of me wanted to see how far they'd go in their judgment before I revealed the truth. My brownstone in Brooklyn became my sanctuary. 3 stories of hardwood floors, exposed brick, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a tree-lined street. I bought it outright last year, no mortgage, no loans. Just a wire transfer that made my banker's eyes widen. The real estate agent had assumed I was purchasing for a foreign investor until I signed my own name on the papers. "Are you sure you want to live here alone, Ms. Blackwood?" she'd asked, glancing around the spacious living room. "It's quite a lot of house for one person." I remember smiling as I took the keys. I've spent my whole life being underestimated. This house is just the beginning. And it was. 2 more properties followed, an apartment in San Francisco near my company's new office and a cabin in the Adirondacks where I could escape when the city became too much. My company, Black Code Solutions, crossed the 8-figure valuation mark last quarter. Not bad for a college dropout who lives on her computer. But to my family, I was still just Sarah, the disappointment who couldn't hold down a real job. The one who needed to get her act together before it's too late. Madison's words, not mine, last Thanksgiving changed everything. Madison called to inform me, not ask, inform, that she'd be bringing her new fiancé, David, to meet the family. "We'll come to your place," she declared. "Mom and Dad are renovating, and David wants to see New York. Though I've warned him not to expect much from your living situation." I could have corrected her then. Could have mentioned that my living situation was featured in Architectural Digest last spring. Instead, I just said, "Sure, Madison. Looking forward to it." As I hung up the phone, I looked around at my beautiful home and made a decision. Thanksgiving would be the day the truth finally came out. I just had no idea how dramatically it would unfold. The week before Thanksgiving, I threw myself into preparations. If this was going to be my coming out party as the successful entrepreneur I'd become, everything needed to be perfect. I hired a professional decorator to transform my already beautiful home into a Thanksgiving wonderland. Tasteful autumn arrangements adorned every surface. The dining room table, a single slab of reclaimed oak that had cost more than Madison's first car, was set with my grandmother's china and crystal that I'd quietly purchased when my parents decided to sell it. "This is quite the setup for a family dinner," remarked my assistant, Zoe, as she helped me arrange name cards. She was one of the few people who understood the significance of this gathering. "Are you sure you don't want to just tell them beforehand? Maybe ease them into it?" I shook my head, adjusting a perfectly folded napkin. "They've had years to see me as I am, not as they assumed I was. They never bothered to ask about my work or my life. They just decided who I was. The doorbell rang at exactly 4 p.m. on Thanksgiving Day. I took a deep breath, smoothed down my simple but exquisitely tailored dress, another detail they wouldn't notice or appreciate, and opened the door. "Sarah!" My mother embraced me, the familiar scent of her Chanel perfume enveloping me. "You look different. Did you do something with your hair?" "New job?" my father asked hopefully, his standard greeting for the past decade. Before I could answer, Madison swept in, pulling a tall, handsome man behind her. "David, this is my sister Sarah." "Sarah, this is David Harrington, my fiancé. He's a real estate developer." David extended his hand with a warm smile that seemed genuine. "Pleasure to meet you, Sarah. Madison's told me so much about you." I couldn't help but wonder exactly what she'd told him. That I was the family disappointment? The cautionary tale of wasted potential? "Welcome to my home," I said simply, ushering them inside. The reactions were immediate and varied. My mother gasped softly, taking in the soaring ceilings and designer furniture. My father frowned in confusion, clearly trying to reconcile this space with his mental image of where his failure daughter should live. Madison's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Did you redecorate for us?" she asked, her tone suggesting this was all for show. "No," I replied, taking their coats. "This is how I live." "You must have a very understanding landlord," my mother said, running her fingers along the marble countertop in the kitchen, "to let you make all these changes." I just smiled. "Dinner will be ready in about 20 minutes. Why don't you all make yourselves comfortable? There's wine breathing in the dining room." As they moved through my home, I could hear Madison's hushed voice. She must be in serious debt. This place is way beyond what she could afford. It's just like Sarah to be so irresponsible. I busied myself in the kitchen, where I'd prepared most of the meal myself, with a few dishes from a high-end caterer. The turkey was perfect, the sides abundant, the presentation worthy of a magazine spread. When I called them to dinner, they gathered around my table with expressions ranging from confusion to suspicion. Madison raised her glass for a toast. "To family," she said, "and to new beginnings. David and I have some news. We've put an offer on a condo in Tribeca. It's small, but it's a start." "That's wonderful, honey," my mother beamed. "What about you, Sarah?" my father asked, his tone gentle but condescending. "Any prospects on the horizon? Job interviews? Maybe thinking about finishing your degree?" Before I could answer, Madison laughed, that sharp, dismissive laugh I'd grown to hate. "Dad, come on. Sarah's almost 30. If she was going to get her act together, it would have happened by now." I took a sip of my wine, an exclusive vintage from a small vineyard in Napa where I was an investor. "Actually, I'm doing quite well." Madison rolled her eyes. "Sure you are. Living in this place that you clearly can't afford, with no real job, no degree, no future. I mean, look at you, you're a complete failure by any normal standard." The table fell silent. My mother looked down at her plate. My father shifted uncomfortably. David looked mortified at his fiancée's outburst, and that's when everything changed. The silence that followed Madison's outburst was deafening. I could hear the antique grandfather clock in the hallway ticking away seconds that felt like hours. My mother stared intently at her plate, while my father examined his wine glass as if it contained the secrets of the universe. It was David who finally broke the silence, but not in the way anyone expected. "Wait a minute," he said, frowning slightly. "This address. I know this property." He turned to look at me with new interest. This is the Westbrook brownstone, isn't it? The one that sold last year for, he paused, glancing uncomfortably at Madison, well over $2 million. Cash deal, if I remember correctly. Madison snorted. Don't be ridiculous, David. Sarah's renting. Probably spending every penny she makes on this place to keep up appearances. David shook his head. No, I'm certain. My firm bid on this property for a client. It's unmistakable, those original crown moldings, the restored staircase. The sale was the talk of the office because the buyer was so young and paid in full. No mortgage. He looked at me with growing realization. The buyer was a woman who ran a tech company. All eyes turned to me. I took another sip of my wine, savoring the moment I'd waited years for. You're right, David, I said calmly. I bought this house last year. Cash deal. My father's fork clattered against his plate. That's impossible, Sarah. You couldn't possibly. I founded Black Code Solutions 4 years ago, I continued, my voice steady despite my racing heart. We specialize in security algorithms and app development. Last year, we were valued at just over $10 million. This year, we're projecting to double that. Madison's face had drained of all color. You're lying. I reached for my phone, opened my banking app, and slid it across the table to her. I'm not. And this house isn't my only property. I also own a place in San Francisco and a cabin in the Adirondacks. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Serafina, why didn't you tell us? I left the library in a daze, the printed photograph burning a hole in my bag. The busy New York streets seemed surreal, as if I were walking through someone else's dream. How could my mother, the woman who had taught me honesty above all else, have lied to me so completely? I needed to see Grandma Evelyn again, alone. I needed the full truth before confronting my mother. The nursing home was quiet when I arrived the next morning. I'd called ahead, confirming that my mother wasn't scheduled to visit. Grandma was awake, propped up in bed, watching a game show with the volume too loud. Junie! Her face lit up when she saw me. What a lovely surprise. I kissed her papery cheek, then sat beside her, turning down the television. Grandma, I need to talk to you about what you said last time. About the Hayes family. Her expression changed, caution replacing joy. Your mother doesn't want you to know. I need to know, I insisted, taking her hand. Please, Grandma. I found a photograph of Mom at a Hayes family event. She was introduced as Elaine Hayes. What's going on? Grandma Evelyn sighed deeply, suddenly looking every one of her 85 years. I've wanted to tell you for so long. It's not right, what they did to you. What who did? Mom? The Hayes family? All of them. She adjusted herself in the bed, wincing slightly. Your mother wasn't just involved with Robert Hayes Jr. She married him, secretly, against his family's wishes. They were young, she was just 20, he was 23. His family had arranged his engagement to the Astor girl, a business merger more than a marriage. But Robert loved your mother. I struggled to reconcile this romantic tale with the practical, unassuming woman who had raised me. If they were married, why did she raise me alone? Why did she let me believe he was just some man she barely knew? Because of the agreement. Grandma's voice hardened. When Robert's father found out about the marriage, he was furious. Threatened to disinherit Robert completely. They reached a compromise, Robert would go through with the arranged engagement. but it would eventually be called off for appropriate reasons. Your mother would be paid to disappear. Paid? The word felt dirty in my mouth. She refused the money at first. But then she discovered she was pregnant with you. Robert was overjoyed. He wanted to defy his father, claim you and your mother. Publicly. But before he could. Her voice faltered. The boating accident, I finished for her, she nodded. The official story. I've always had my doubts. The implication hung in the air between us, too terrible to voice aloud. After Robert died, she continued, his father came to your mother with a new agreement. The Hayes family would provide for you both, but under strict conditions. You were never to know your true heritage. You would be raised as the daughter of a single mother of modest means. Your mother would receive a modest stipend, enough to keep you comfortable but not enough to raise questions. But we weren't comfortable, I protested. We struggled constantly. I worked since I was 16. I took out loans for college. Grandma's eyes filled with tears. That was their cruelty. They controlled everything, where you lived, where you went to school. The stipend decreased every year. They wanted you to feel the absence of privilege, to never develop the expectations of a Hayes. But why? My voice cracked. Why would they be so cruel to a child? Because you were living proof of what they considered Robert's greatest mistake. His defiance. His love for someone they deemed unworthy. She squeezed my hand. And because of the inheritance. What inheritance? Robert's personal fortune. Separate from the family money. His maternal grandfather left it to him in a trust. That passed directly to his firstborn child upon his death. That's you, Junie. A fortune that even his father couldn't touch. My head spun with the implications. Are you saying I'm rich? Legally, yes. But they've hidden it from you. As long as you don't claim it, they control it. The moment you turned 25, you could have accessed everything. But how could you claim something you didn't know existed? The pieces were falling into place, creating a picture so ugly I could barely look at it. And Mom? She agreed to this? Grandma's expression softened. Your mother loved Robert desperately. His death broke her. I think she believed accepting the agreement was the only way to keep you safe from a family powerful enough to destroy anyone who crossed them. But the photograph I found, she was at a Hayes event, introduced as family. The agreement evolved over time. As you got older, they allowed her more freedom, as long as you remained in the dark. I believe they enjoy the power they hold over her. Over both of you. I stood up abruptly, needing to move. This is insane. You're telling me my entire life has been orchestrated by people I've never met? That my own mother has been lying to me for 28 years? She thought she was protecting you. By keeping me poor? By watching me struggle when I didn't have. 2. Anger rose in me, hot and unfamiliar. Where does she go when she's not with me? Does she have another life I don't know about? Grandma looked away. She has a house in Connecticut. The Hayes family compound is nearby. She's involved in their lives. The betrayal cut so deep I could barely breathe. While I've been sharing a cramped apartment with roommates? While I've been working myself to exhaustion to pay off student loans? Junie, please try to understand. Understand what? That my mother has been living a double life? That she let me believe we were struggling together when she had a secret house in Connecticut? My voice rose with each question, drawing the attention of a passing nurse. "Is everything all right in here?" the nurse asked, glancing between us. "Fine," I said. Shortly. "Just a family discussion." Family. The word tasted bitter now. After the nurse left, Grandma reached for my hand again. "There's more you need to know. About your legal rights. About the trust." I sat back down, forcing myself to focus through the haze of betrayal. "Tell me everything." And she did. The trust established by Robert's grandfather. The conditions of inheritance. The fortune that had been accumulating interest for 15 years, legally mine but hidden from me. "How do you know all this?" I asked when she finished. "I was Robert's mother's best friend." "I'm not actually related to you or your mother, that was part of the fiction they created." I agreed to play along because I wanted to keep an eye on you, to make sure you were okay. I promised Robert's mother before she died that I would tell you the truth when the time was right. Another lie. Even this relationship, the grandmother I'd loved my whole life, was a fabrication. "Why now?" I asked, my voice hollow. "Why tell me after all these years?" "Because I'm dying, dear." She said it matter-of-factly, without self-pity. "Cancer. I have a few months at most. I couldn't leave this world without giving you the truth you deserve." I felt numb, overloaded with revelations. What am I supposed to do with this information? That's for you to decide. You could claim your inheritance, confront the Hayes family. Or you could walk away, continue the life you've built. She paused. "But whatever you choose, know this, you deserved better than the hand they dealt you." As I left the nursing home, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Coming over for Sunday dinner tomorrow? Making your favorite lasagna." I stared at the message, at the cheerful little heart emoji she'd added at the end. Who was this woman? The struggling single mother who'd raised me with love and sacrifice? Or Elaine Hayes, the secret member of a wealthy dynasty who had deliberately kept me in poverty? I needed to see for myself. Before confronting her, before making any decisions, I needed to see the truth with my own eyes. I texted back, "Can't. Tomorrow. Work deadline. Rain check?" Then I booked a rental car for the following day. I was going to Connecticut to find my mother's other life, and perhaps my own stolen inheritance. I drove to Greenwich, Connecticut and found my mother's secret house, a beautiful colonial with flower boxes and a new Volvo in the driveway. After watching her leave, I used the spare key hidden under a planter to enter. Inside was a life I never knew existed. Tasteful furniture, expensive finishes, and most devastating, photos of my mother with the Hayes family. On the center shelf stood a picture of my mother, baby me, and my father, Robert Hayes Jr. At the end of the hallway, I discovered a bedroom prepared for me, painted my favorite green, filled with books I loved, a room I'd never been invited to use. On the desk sat a laptop containing a folder labeled Junie. Inside were hundreds of documents revealing my $30 million inheritance, accessible since my 25th birthday but deliberately hidden from me. Emails between my mother and my grandfather discussed me as a situation to be managed. Confirming their conspiracy to keep me ignorant of my birthright, I fled when I heard my mother returning. As I drove away, her text arrived, "Miss you, Junie Bug." I turned off my phone without replying. The daughter who believed in their shared struggle no longer existed, replaced by someone with 30 million reasons to be angry and the legal right to claim what had been kept from her for 28 years. I checked into a hotel and called my friend Zoe, a lawyer. After hearing my story, she helped me develop a strategy and connected me with Patricia Winters, a trust litigation specialist. Patricia confirmed I had a strong legal case against the Hayes family for hiding my inheritance. We'll file for immediate access to the trust and freeze the assets, she explained. But prepare for them to fight back with everything they have. That evening, I finally responded to my mother's frantic texts with 3 words: I know everything. Her immediate reply: Where are you? We need to talk. Yes, I answered. We do. But this time, we'll talk on my terms. I arranged to meet her at Patricia's office the next day. No more secrets, no more lies. Whatever happened next, I would face it as Juniper Hayes, not the struggling graphic designer they'd forced me to be, but the rightful heir they'd tried to erase. The inheritance they'd hidden was about more than money. It was about my identity, my history, my rightful place in the world. And I was ready to claim it all.